revolution was in the air, but men dared not grasp it. In the taverns of Philadelphia, nightly, artisans and merchants and mechanics met to argue and debate, but no one dared utter its name. Though the idea was everywhere, like Franklin's electricity in a storm. All were afraid of its power and unsure of its use. Until one night, it began timidly enough, the usual proclamation of, I dislike the king's taxes and his governance, though I esteem his nation. Then the question, but is it our nation? At once voices came from everywhere, questions of loyalty, of protest, of patience, of war, and one voice rose, if it must come to war, then perhaps it must. And paused to add, perhaps. For a moment, indecision hung in the air, and I felt dizzy as the debate had turned to war with Britain. One called it folly, another argued it was a greater folly to hope the king would yield to the colony's demands, while another wondered who would govern us, if not the crown. The crown is but an ornament, and the English constitution exalts but the few. Without the crown we shall be at the mercy of the Indians, the French, the Spanish. It is the crown that secures our safety, and Britain that is the market for our goods. And again, for a moment, no answer, until a rascal asked, won't America always have a market while eating is the custom in Europe? And there was laughter all around, till one offered that Britain was our mother country, and another argued that was the greater shame, for even brutes do not devour their young, nor savages make war upon their families. But another countered, this talk of separation is a criminal act. It is treason. And that word, uttered into the air, seemed to suck all life out of the room. And silence settled on the tavern. Till at last, a Swede rose. It would only be treason if we were British. We are Americans. And the word Americans whispered itself around the room. And all was clear to me. Like a drowning man coming to the surface, I breathed deeply and raised my glass. Americans! Oh, and patriots! But there was yet one feeble objection to be voiced. But who shall be our king? I turned and looked hard on him. Our king reigns above. Down here in America we shall exalt the law as king. Barman, I stand around for all who will stand for freedom. Whatever the cost, we must all stand for independence. And all rose and clamored to the bar to have their glasses filled. And one wag raised his whiskey and proclaimed, to Thomas Paine, this is truly the shot that will be heard around the world. Soon after that, Franklin asked me to meet with him, and Benjamin Rush, and a few others, because in 1775 our fight against the King's slaughter was going badly in the field, and the soldiers demanded to know for what they were fighting. When I entered, they were in furious debate, arguing one way then another, one whispering independence and another loudly urging caution. I listened quietly for a long while, until I could stand it no longer. This debate you hold with yourselves is held nightly everywhere, and many are timid, 'tis true, but many more know that revolution must come, and it must come now. Fear not to say what must be said, for if you will not speak it, I shall write it. The room fell so silent, the fire in the stove sounded like an infernal roar. Then Rush nodded his assent and proposed I write a pamphlet. He even suggested the title, Common Sense. Franklin had spoke little that night, content that he had brought the key to the lightning. But make no mistake, the true fathers of common sense had been the working people in a Philadelphia tavern.